Welcome to Intention Out Podcast, where we dive deep with leaders, warriors, and game changers who live with purpose and make an impact. Today's guest is Dennis Blocker. He's an author, podcast host, public speaker, former EMT and trauma tech, and a leading voice in PTS awareness and Pacific War history. Dennis is the author of a book, Clear, where he details his 23-year career in the high-stress emergency medicine with his with his personal battle with PTS. His work goes beyond theory. It's lived experience in the front lines. He also served as the lead researcher for the Heart of Hell, a definitive history of Iwo Jima, and the Pacific War historian for the National Landing Craft Infantry Association. That's a tongue twister. Where he interviewed hundreds of World War II veterans, including men who served aboard his own grandfather's ship. Man, I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. That's awesome. Today we talk about trauma, clarity, legacy, an important upcoming event tied to American history, the Rooftop Oath, taking place on February 21st, 2026, commemorating the rising of the flag of Iwo Jima. Dennis, welcome to the show, brother. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you got an awesome career, man. I'm so excited to talk a little bit about everything today.
It's
So
pretty wild.
let's start off where everyone starts off, right? Where did you grow up? And tell us a little bit about your family, please.
Yeah, sure, Dave. I was born June 8th, 1974. I'm a 74 model, and I was born in Los Angeles. It was a waypoint. That's where my mom's parents were living at the time. They were all originally from Wisconsin, but after the war, Grandpa didn't want to shovel snow anymore, so he
Smart man. Yep.
he got to see San Diego and Los Angeles area, when he was in the shipping out to the Pacific, and he saw the writing on the wall that a lot of jobs out there, construction. So that was his business. So they moved there, and so when I was about to be born, my mom said, I think I'm gonna stop off over there and have my baby because Dad had orders to Guam. He was an Air Force
Okay.
cop.
Got it.
And so she thought, well, let's get the first couple months done with Mom and that help instead of an island with a bunch of strangers. So we stopped off there. I was born. Then Dad went to Guam, got our housing and everything is arranged on the Air Force base there. And yeah, so grew up in a military family, Guam, and then we moved to Michigan to San Antonio to Iceland.
Wow.
Lived in Iceland for 2 years, and that was our favorite place. Yeah, that was our
Nice.
favorite place. Yeah, that
Okay.
was awesome. And it's just wild when you're 10 years old and you go to school and it's dark all day.
Yeah, I
Right?
can't
It's
even
just
imagine. Yeah. It's like I'm going
it's
to
a
night
novel.
school and it's daytime. What the heck's going on here, man? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a novelty, and then it switches, and so then your mom's saying time to go to bed, and you look outside, it's 9 o'clock, and it's broad daylight. And so
Wow.
that was a really cool place. And then from there we went to San Antonio, and yeah, so then that's where my dad retired because of the same thing. He didn't want to go back to Wisconsin, shoveling snow. So he stayed in San Antonio, good military town. It's known as Military City, USA. Tons of veterans, and yeah, so they settled here.
That's awesome. Man, I think it's a great experience to be able to travel and live different places as a kid, right? Kind of opens your perspective of the world quite a bit, right? Instead of
Yeah,
being
yeah, for sure. And people could never guess where I'm from by my accent because I don't have one. It's sort of a
you're frozen there. There we go.
Oh, what's really cool about being an Air Force brat is that you're very good to get a good skills on making friends and being a very attuned to people's cultures. All tremendous gifts and assets and attributes that would come in handy, as we'll see in my future. But beautiful life, loved it. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's
But it is
awesome.
interesting. Chris Christopherson made a documentary called Brats, Our Journey Home. He was an Army brat. And when they interview all of the DOD kids, when they first come up to the stand to be interviewed, the first question is, where's your hometown? And everybody's like, you mean like where I was born, where I lived the longest, where my parents are from?
Right.
What, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
That's pretty neat. I love that. So you were raised with a lot of good family values, it sounds like, growing up.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I was
awesome.
fortunate, mom and dad, they weren't Christians when we were growing up as kids, but then around when I was around 8 or 9, my uncle Skippy, he he talked to my dad about Jesus and salvation and repentance and all of that, and he took him through something called the Romans Road, and dad then accepted Christ, and it was an instantaneous change in his behavior. Alcohol went out the door, cigarettes went out the door, um, and then he had to convince mom, who knew him as a gangbanger in Milwaukee and a thug, and then a tough guy. And all of a sudden, he's got to try and win her over. But what he did was is he just let his example speak, and she saw that, man, this is a really different. And
Wow.
so
That's
yeah.
incredible because when you're older, you're set in your ways.
Hmm.
So he must have had a lot of respect for your Uncle Skippy. So that's pretty
Sure,
cool. That's
absolutely.
awesome. I love that. All right, perfect. So you grew up all over the place, and how did you wind up getting into EMT and trauma tech? Did you want to do that all the time, or was that
No,
one of your goals?
Dave, that had never even crossed my mind. The Actually, when I was 16, I took a mission trip to the Congo. Back then it was called Zaire, but it was in the Congo, and we spent a month out in the deep jungle. And um, I knew then that what I really thought I wanted to do was be a missionary back
Okay.
there. So I started learning French and the local language, which was Kituba. And so I learned that in high school. I was taking French, and then I went to Bible college in Oklahoma City. I took French there. So I was really zeroing down on doing that, in the
Nice.
future and being a
Okay.
missionary. Um, but when I was in Africa as a 16-year-old, I got knocked off of we were driving along on this dirt road. And as soon as you leave Kinshasa, there's no more paved roads. And
Bumping
so,
up, yeah,
sure.
bumping up and down all over the place. Yeah, I remember that.
Absolutely, right. You're
Yeah,
right on the
yeah.
roll cage. And it seemed like every 10 minutes we were having to shovel this 8-ton truck out of the sand. And you're pushing it and you're chopping down trees out in the jungle and you're putting them underneath the tires and everybody's pushing and it's just exhausting. Well, we were 3 days out in the jungle and I'm riding on top of the roll cage at the front right corner of the roll cage above where below would have been the passenger in the car compartment of the truck. So you can
Okay.
imagine me sitting on that corner, and we're doing about a 35-mile-an-hour clip. And all of a sudden, I just hear people saying, duck, duck, duck. So I figured, okay, here comes some branches. So I duck down and I just feel the branches ripping across my back. And then just a sudden whack.
Oh
And it was
no.
instant lights out, right? So just instantly out. And then the tree branch scraped me off the top of the truck. And then I fell beside the truck and it was still moving forward. And as I'm falling, it was really weird. I knew I was falling and it felt like four winds. And when I hit, I was like, pull away, push away because the back tire's still coming, but I was short circuited. I couldn't do anything. Hit, rolled, and then the back tire rolled over my shoulder and my face,
Oh my
and it
gosh.
was sand, so it just, and I remember laying there, and I could hear the truck continuing to go. Everybody had been ducked down, and no one noticed that I had been plucked off, except that on the back of the truck was this African with this orange trench coat and a whistle. In case we need to stop, he would blow that whistle, and the truck driver would knew to,
Stop.
stop.
Yeah.
So I just heard that whistle just going crazy, and I could hear them running up. I heard somebody say, "Is he alive?" And then someone else say, "Let's, hurry, hurry, hurry." And then I heard a camera.
Oh my
Someone,
gosh, man.
some would be
Let's document this really quick. Yeah.
somewhere out there is an amazing picture of me sprawled out on the Zaire trail, but um, knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what they did next. But they sat me up and they moved my head. Can you move everything okay?
Oh no. Oh my gosh.
So, C-spine injury precautions went
And
out the
how
window.
old were you then, Dennis?
16.
16. Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
So, you know, that showed me the necessity of medical training in those kind of environments. And we had no medical people. We had a veterinarian with us. And so then you fast forward to Bible college, and I'm sitting
What
in class. Uh-huh.
I was gonna say, so what did anything happen to you?
Well, the thing was, there's like you've heard people say first world problems, right? A first world problem is you have terrible internet connection for your podcast episode, right? That's
Right, right,
definitely a first
exactly.
world
Yep, yep,
problem,
yep.
right? Well, in that environment in the Congo, when you're 3 days in the jungle and you're injured, in America, you would immediately go to a clinic,
Right, exactly. Yep.
not even a thought.
Right.
But in the real world, we have people that we need to pick up that are a day or two ahead of us still. And we have to turn and burn then to get back to Kinshasa in time to catch our plane out of the country.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there's this decision on, do we abandon these people to the jungles in the Congo that's swallowed up? Do we just cross our fingers and hope that Dennis does okay? And let's see how he does. And um, I had blood coming out of my ear and my nose and mouth. And the next day was like, it's always the day after the traffic accident
Right,
that you feel
exactly.
the
Yep.
worst, right? So that next morning when I got up, my arm was like, I couldn't move. It was because I had been rolled over. So all that muscle had been pulverized by the weight of the tire. And I couldn't talk. My jaw was frozen shut and drool was coming out. And I couldn't eat. And I just had to tough it out, just take a couple Tylenol and
Wow. Holy
tough it
cow.
out. And then we went deeper in the jungle and picking up missionaries as we're going along. And that night we slept on the middle of the Kasai River. The Kasai River is so wide that from space it's a blue swath,
Oh wow.
right?
Holy
From
cow.
space. So we're in the middle of this river, sleeping on a sandbar. You know, we should have died. We should have died so many times. I mean, we treated Africa like it was Garner State Park down here.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I was just thinking about the dangers that it's
oh,
like, what were they
sleeping
right before you said that, it's like that doesn't sound right.
No, it's not. We're a buffet,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
a buffet of very soft meat with no scales and no splinters,
Oh my gosh.
no
Holy cow.
horns. And looking back, and even in the morning, we looked around, there was hippo tracks all over the place. We had camped like right on where they usually rest at the night time. And
Wow.
we're
Holy
just
moly.
dumb. We're just dumb. I'm sure
Man.
the Africans waving at us alongside the river were like, they're all going to die tonight.
It's good
So
to see you. I won't be seeing you much longer.
there they go
Wow.
again, more Americans.
That's awesome
And
that you're on that trip and God protected you from how many people could say I got my head and body ran over by a truck and I just took Tylenol and was fine and know
right,
the stories.
exactly.
That's amazing. And you look great. Nothing seems like nothing happened to your face either, which is
No, no,
wow.
yeah.
What a
And that
miracle.
night we were
So
looking up and it was just amazing. I just imagine our guardian angels when they finally got us on the plane. They must have reported back to God with broken wings and claw marks and
it's
teeth
like
marks.
I had to work really hard for these knuckleheads,
We
God.
got him on there. We got him there.
Oh my gosh. So then you figured out there was a need for emergency services all over, right?
Yeah, and that
Okay.
just kind of in the back of my mind. It's still though it hadn't occurred to me that that could be me,
Right.
but it was definitely evident that it was a huge need. We had people that were lining up for hours just to get a Tylenol from us, because
Wow. Holy cow.
we could see the need and we knew beforehand. So we had brought a bunch of antibiotics that people had left over, the people in the church had left over in their cupboards and countertop. So everybody had been bringing in medicine over the past couple months that we could dispense to people and that wouldn't have ailments and things like that. And that we could give to their clinic in the middle of the jungle. And um, it wasn't until Bible college then that I was sitting in class and our building shook and we went out into the hallway and April 19th, 1995. And that's when they were like, there's this explosion downtown.
Oh,
And
okay.
they had brought a TV up to the window and I could see um, the building cut in half, like Godzilla had stepped on it. And Timothy
Yeah, I remember
McVeigh,
that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So the Dave, that was absolutely the first time that I felt that call
Okay.
that I needed to do something. I could no longer just sit by and let
Got it.
others. And so then my sister and I, that next summer, we got into EMT school. And
Wow.
because I was like, no, never again am I going to be the guy that just stands there,
And
you
how old
know.
were you at that time?
I would have been probably 19.
19. And how close were you
19.
guys to the building?
Close enough that the building shook, but not not to where we had any damage. I mean, there was like a little bit of plaster that fell down from the ceiling. I would say probably as the crow flies, maybe 2.5 miles.
Okay. Did you guys go
So
over there at all or no?
yeah, so our choir, I was part of the choir, so
Okay.
we went and sang to all of the rescue workers and stuff
Oh,
in the
wow.
little civic center that they set up a rest area for them. So we sang for them. I just remember seeing on the back of their shirts like FBI, DEA, U.S. Army, Marshal Service, firemen from all over the country, California, famously. Um, right, the Nevada squad is famous for rescuing people in earthquakes and stuff. So, yeah, that call was like, man, I've got to do something. So,
Wow. That's
yeah.
amazing. Perfect. So then you started going to EMT school and started working pretty much at a hospital, or did you work right away?
Yeah, so I did the EMT school and they everybody requires you to have 2 years experience.
Okay.
But it's like, how are you going to get experience if nobody hires you?
Exactly.
So what I did was I started with the volunteer fire department here in Bear County,
Oh, nice. Okay.
and so that was tremendous. I got a lot of great experience there, and especially being in a county because you're the first responder, and so that taught me a lot about really, Dave. A lot of it is training, but really you either have it or you don't, and
Right.
you don't know until you're there.
Yeah.
So
You got to experience it firsthand,
right.
100%. Right.
And you yourself in the military, you've seen people that they had the body build, they had the looks, they had the height, they had the strength, they had the muscles, they had the education, but they get them in that crush
Yep.
atmosphere and they just can't
They fall
process.
apart mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, they
100%.
can't access those files.
Right.
They're just shunted. And it just so happened that I discovered that I was able to thrive. And when things happen, for some reason, I got super clear, and which is why I ended up naming the book Clear. One of the
Okay.
reasons why. But and it's not something you can brag about because you either have it or you don't.
Right. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's in you. It's your DNA. It's the way the grand
God
architect
made us
designed
all
you.
for different jobs. So
Right.
yeah, you got
So
to find what you're made for. Yep.
nurses would come to the ER, the trauma and level one trauma center, and they had been training their whole lives and they knew they wanted to do this and they'd clocked in and they'd clock out an hour later with tears in their eyes and they'd say, I can't do it. This is insane. And the experienced nurses would and myself later would say, look, all this means is you're more sane than the rest of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a good point. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. You're right.
You're
Yeah.
just more sane than the rest of us. Like you're an amazing person and you're going to be an amazing nurse at wherever you go. But you tried. You had the courage to try. A lot of people don't even have that. They're like, oh no, I can't do EMS. I can't do fire. I can't do police.
Right.
It's just, and so they don't even try, you know. And so I would commend them. I'm like, look, you tried. That took a lot of courage.
Right. Exactly. At least you stepped up and made the effort, which is pretty
Right.
cool.
You
Right.
put yourself in there and you said, you know what, this isn't for me. And that's okay. You've got some other part that you've got to play. And for me, it was that I knew that I was, yeah, this is a good fit for me. And I really enjoy the chaos. And I love that when I step up to the place that look that families and kids and relatives and strangers have when they look up and they see you walking to them with your bags, and you immediately see the anxiety start to come down in their faces, and you know that already you're making a difference and you're helping them. I mean, it's just the best thing ever.
It's like, thank God
And
you're here, right? Yeah.
yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
be okay. At least somebody's here that can help. And that's why later on we would always bring in the families when we're doing CPR on a loved one. We would bring them in and we would let them watch the code so that they could see. We would say, "Are you okay? We just wanted you to see everything that's being done." And they'd say, "Yeah." And so we'd bring them in and they could see the rounds of meds and the rounds of the defibrillating and the procedures and the central lines and the call, and how calm the whole team was. Just simple conversation. It's not like the TV show where they dramatize it and everybody's yelling and no, a good code is super quiet and calm, and you're just talking and you're charting everybody's fluid motions, and that brings down the family's anxiety, and then they can see. And then the doctor is beside them, usually like this, and then they're just kind of lean over and they whisper to the family member, "This is what's going on, this is what that means, what they just called out." And the doctor will say, "Well, we've been at this for 35 minutes, and in my opinion, there's not
Nothing
much
else
more
we
we
could
can
do,
do.
right?
If you
Yeah.
want us to continue, but you see everything we've been doing." And they'll say, "No, I think that's enough."
Nice.
And
Okay. That's a pretty good way to do it.
that's beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. And then they don't have this in their mind of, was this done? Or maybe what we could have done this. And they're dealing with that the rest of their lives. No, they've got this.
They were
It's
part of
solid.
it. They were actually part of it, connected
Yeah.
with it, which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have no second thoughts. It's like, man, these guys weren't doing this or this and this. It's like I saw it all and they tried their best, which is great.
Right.
And I love that you volunteered at the firefighters. That's a good career path for anybody looking to get in that field, right? This
Oh,
would be a good
yes.
experience,
It's
which is great.
tremendous.
And then you wound up serving for a long time in that capacity, which is awesome. Thank you for that service, by the way. Uh, can you tell me, you probably had a lot of different calls, I would imagine, a story that sticks out for you, and then also, then we could dive into your book a little bit after that, if you don't mind.
Sure, sure. One of the ones that immediately leapt to my mind was, I remember a friend of mine saying, "Be careful what you wish for."
Okay.
He talked about how jealous he was, and I know this sounds insane to regular people, but when all and the soldiers and Marines will and the warriors will understand what I'm about to say. You've been training forever, forever, and all you want is
Yeah.
to get to do what you've been training
Get
for.
in the fight. Yep.
Get in the fight, right? And it's the same for medics and firefighters. So you've been training. And so, and especially in a volunteer department, we had medic who was super jealous because it seemed like I was the one that was always there when the calls would come in for CPR in progress or structure fire or this and that. And then the times that he was available, nothing would happen, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
And so I remember he said, "Man, you're so lucky." And I says, "Well, it's just the way it's working out." Well, then that very next shift, he had to respond to a child not breathing. And he had to run out with the child in his arms, and the baby died. And that haunted him, that he felt like he shouldn't have said, "I wish that I would have a code." You know what I mean?
Right.
And that wasn't his. And this is something that I would learn later on, that he had nothing to do with that child dying.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just part of life, right? Yeah.
Right. It was just it was gonna happen. But in his mind, he went there that somehow the universe was sitting, "There's a child for you." No, it's so anyway, careful what you wish for. And another thing
100%.
too to remember is that when you are working for a volunteer fire department, sometimes everybody's going to be busy at their other jobs or at a funeral or they're at a wedding or they're not out of town on vacation, and it comes down to you.
Right, exactly. That's
so,
true.
and your mutual aid is 45 minutes away. So you've got to handle a scene for four. So the reason I mention that is that I in the neighborhoods and my pager went off. It's 0 dark 30. I get all my gear together, throw my little woo woo light on top, get my little siren, and I'm going down my personal vehicle to this private residence. And when I get there, the sheriff deputies were there already, and they had yellow
Okay,
tape.
got it.
And and it was, I just remember it was like the movies. When I was walking up, the deputy actually lifted the tape up for me, and I walked underneath the tape like you see in the movies. And I kind of was like, "Oh crap, this is real." And I walked in, and I knew it was a shooting. But what struck me was that no one was flustered. It was so quiet. And as I entered the house, I heard some soft whimpering off to my left. And I looked over there, and there was this lady sitting on the couch. She had her hands in her head, and she was gently crying. And I could see the tears were coming through her hands and plopping on her bare leg. And the deputy had a pad out, and he was talking to her. And he just kind of looked over at me and then looked down. And I I heard this way, and I look up, and down the hallway, another sheriff deputy had poked his head out, and he waved me on down. So
Okay.
I come down there, and there's all these pictures on the hallway of family, all staring out at you as you're walking down this hallway with smiles on their faces. And
Wow.
I get down to the end there, and there's this guy laying on a bed, completely naked, and he's got an entrance wound here, and then on the wall is all the
Debris.
matter.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I walk. This is my first scene like this,
Okay, got it.
and I'm there. So I walk around, and there's two sheriffs in there, and they're just kind of looking at me, and I see their hard faces, and I stepped around one, and I bumped the bed, and when I did, there was this large pool of blood on the bed, and it by this time had coagulated. So I just have this vision of this jello substance jiggling, and I could see, and he was agonal breathing. So then the paramedics come in finally, and then there was nothing to do.
Right,
He
exactly.
was gone.
Wow.
But that was when I was like, yeah, this is
This this is the real
this is
deal, man.
this is
Yeah.
real. This is
Yeah.
real. And
That's
there's
that
sometimes
that
when
definitely makes a huge impact on you, right? Seeing something like that.
yeah,
And with your career being in there so long, you probably saw it quite a bit.
sure,
So, there's a lot of post-traumatic stress with that, which I think you talk more about in your book, right? Can you
sure.
can you talk about how you actually were able to, you know, how bad did you suffer with that? And tell us more about your book, please.
Yeah, for sure. Um, the really started to happen in the trauma when I switched over from fire. I only did fire department for 2 years, and then I switched over to the EMS. Then I switched over to the trauma at the university hospital, and it had only took probably 6 or 7 months being there where I already started to lose my joy.
Okay,
And
pretty quickly. Holy
because
cow. Okay.
very quickly, and I have my journal. It's all in the book. I'm very upfront about all that. Um, but I did keep a journal when I first started, and the entries are almost daily, and then you'll see like a week goes by, and then like a month or two goes by, and you can tell if you're observant at all, you can
Yeah,
tell that things are starting to.
you're fading
And
away. Yep.
yeah, so if
Wow.
you're San Antonio is uniquely situated that we have an area of about 60,000 square miles San Antonio is responsible for. It includes McAllen, Del Rio, Eagle Pass, Harlingen, the entire border with Mexico, down that direction. And so we would get, because we are responsible for that area, we get all the stuff with human trafficking, kidnapping, torture, drug wars, the coyotes, the guys that are sneaking the illegals across in vans full of, folks that have paid $1,000 a piece, and they're running from the border patrol, and their vehicle flips, and then the doors fly open, and then just illegals go flying out the. Um, they're just getting decimated, and then you'd have the folks looking to get a better life that leave Mexico, and they roll the dice on just walking, and that's a really bad decision. And
Absolutely.
that is
Yep.
some rough. Everything in that part of Texas is trying to kill you. The sun, even the bushes all have thorns. The trees have thorns. There is scorpions and all kinds of rattlesnakes and copperheads and water moccasins and spiders and fire ants and the sun and the lack of water. And they they're finding bodies all the time out there. And the ones that would make it, sometimes they get run over by trains. They're trying to hop on a train and they're going to lose their legs about getting run over by the train. Or
Wow.
ranchers find them barely alive with a belt here and a handkerchief on this one and just two stumps that they saved themselves. And so, but the ones that really stick to you are, of course, the kiddos, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so part of the job is that, sure, you're trying to save people, but when you don't, you have to put their body in a state that families can come and view them
Right.
without passing out, if you can. And that means you have to rinse the brain. You've got to plug holes that are blood is pouring out of. We would have to change stretchers sometimes because they're just too bloody, and we
Wow.
would have to change stretchers and wipe them down. And so then, then the family leaves, and you're, one of the nurses, I remember her going to her own foot locker and her locker, and she pulled out a brush, and she would brush the hair of these young girls.
Oh,
And
wow.
uh, even now, thinking about it, it chokes me up. But it's, these beautiful little girls that you would think have their full life ahead of them, and she would brush their hair, and then
Hmm.
she showed me how to put them on clean sheets, and she would do like a hotel room. She would take the flat sheet and she'd pull it over their head. Then she would take the blanket and pull that over their head, and then she would fold it down so that now the flat sheet has a nice edge on top of the blanket. And she would take that, and then she would take their arms and put their arms then on top of the blanket and the sheet, and it looks like they're tucked in.
Wow.
And then we would go get family, and
Man,
we would.
what a heart that lady had as well. That's
She
amazing.
was amazing, Dave. She taught us a valuable lesson. We had a particular evening where had like six coming in by air, from a multiple casualty scene. And so we had to prep the room, and we're pushing people out because the room is designed for three, but in a pinch, we could put six or seven in this space. So we're moving carts out into the hallway, and we're getting suction canisters ready, and we're making sure that we've got IV prep kits started, and they're all over and positioned all over the place. And we've got more nurses coming in from the floor and from the unit, and they're coming in and they're getting their charts ready. And um, I she was gonna die. She had a DNR, do not resuscitate order, and there was nothing we are going to do for her, just sustain with a nasal cannula. And but she was right in the middle, this area that we needed.
Wow.
So all of us, we were task oriented.
Okay.
You'll understand what and your guests maybe understand, but we were task oriented, and a woman who had lived a full life and had a lot of experience, and who knows what she had accomplished. and whose lives she had impacted during those 98 years. To us, she was a task. We need to move this stretcher into this other area because we've got 6 coming in. So we moved her over there, plugged the monitor in, plugged the oxygen in, but made sure it was there, pulled the curtain, and then we started getting the other part of the room ready, right? And we were getting close to the air assets arriving with the patients to the helipads. And one of the nurses says, "Hey, where's Peggy?" And this nurse,
Okay.
this Jedi nurse who, and we heard her voice, "I'm here." And I went over and I pulled the curtain, and Peggy was with the 98-year-old lady, and she was asleep. She wasn't conscious, of course, but Peggy had pulled up a chair beside her, and she had that brush, and she was brushing her hair. And when I
Wow.
was standing there watching, Peggy was saying what a wonderful life she must have had, that at her age she had seen flight, she had seen World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, she had seen space, she probably had children and grandbabies and great grandbabies, and she'd seen weddings, and she was having this amazing one-sided conversation with her, just gently talking to her into her ear. And it made me remember when I was lying unconscious and I talked, I would say, absolutely, talk to them. It's very likely they can hear you.
Wow.
And Peggy taught us a lesson that day
Hmm.
about not losing your humanity, that you deal with so much sadness and pain, and you get to where you just start treating these folks as numbers, and you're just moving people, moving meat in a way, and you've got to not lose that humanity. And she
Wow.
went on to be an RN in the ER for 20, no, for 50 years.
Holy cow. What a heart
50
that lady.
years.
Wow. That's
Yes.
incredible. That is, wow. What a good
You got
example.
the one nurse that did it for an hour, right? And she
Right.
was done. And Peggy could do it for 50 years. My time was half that. I did it for 23 and I was done. My cup was full.
Wow. And
But
now, do you have all this in the book?
yes, sir.
Okay, you do. You have it all in the book, which is awesome. All right, perfect. You know, and that's pretty cool that you journaled so much daily as well. So definitely looking to read that book. Do you have that on? I know it's obviously probably on Amazon, but is it on Audible as well or no?
No, I've had so many people tell me that and I should do that.
I'm just curious
Hopefully.
for the audience. No problem. Yeah,
Yeah, I listen to
yeah,
audiobooks so much because when you're driving, it's perfect.
right.
But yeah, that's the plan, is to one day, but for sure, Amazon. My website is blockerbooks.com, and you can get them there. You just click on the book cover, and it takes you right to the Amazon site. Yeah,
Okay, awesome, awesome. I'll make sure we check that out and add a link on here as well. So with all these
issued in Amazon.
scenarios that you saw daily, because I'm sure you weren't slow there at all, you started getting PTS, right? And so
Oh yeah,
what did you wind up doing to get over that, basically?
Dave. I never let the PTSD. I never let it affect the treatment that I gave to my patients. I always gave 150%,
Love it.
and they would never know what I was dealing with,
Okay,
right? But at home, it definitely would rear its head in, I would say, in impatience
got it.
and
Yep.
in a reaction that didn't match the setting, the scene, like a simple spilling of milk and this huge,
It was coming
right?
out there. Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
not an appropriate. It didn't match the setting.
Right,
Like
exactly. Yep.
it was very odd, and those were little tells. Also, a lack of wanting to do what I love. I love going to the movie theater and I love watching movies. And all of a sudden, friends would call, and I didn't really want to. I'd rather just stay home. And then, of course, it exhibited with nightmares, uh, and then it got to where I was, if you're having nightmares, and that means you're not resting at night, you're not sleeping. And sleep
Which
is
is something
probably
you
the
really need for
most,
sure. Yeah.
absolutely, because if you're recharging your batteries, you can handle anything. And, I would pray, and at the end of the day, you're still human, and you you have to surround yourself with excellent people.
Okay.
If all you've done is surround yourself with people who are all stoned all the time and they have no ambition. I have a friend who's got a lot of really bad PTS, and I asked him, I says, what's your purpose? And he said, I never been asked that before, and I don't know. And I says, every man who is worth his salt needs a purpose. I said, that's why the Native American men in old times, there was a moment they knew it and they would say goodbye to everybody and they would walk off into the wilderness because they had no purpose anymore and they knew they were just going to be a burden to the community and they knew that their time was done. Now, fortunately, we're a lot more advanced than that nowadays,
Right.
but
Exactly.
and we have a lot more longevity. But you know, you have to have a purpose, and you part of that purpose is surrounding yourself with excellent people. And so, why do I say that? Because those are the people that are going to say, "Man, you're looking. Are you all right?"
Right.
And not surrounding yourself with people that are going to tell you what you want to hear. For instance, my emergency room leadership. Um, they weren't buying. Sam wasn't buying that. She was like, "No, how are you doing?" Damaris, the charge nurse, Blocker, how are you doing? And I would say, I'm feeling aggressive. And she was like, do you need to go home? And I would say, yes. And another time, the final straw for me was I was walking by a room and we had these little earbuds because the ER was so vast. We communicated with radio and they said, hey, the clerk got on and says, hey, there's a call light going off in the restroom by 36. So I was walking by there. I was like, oh, this is Blocker. I'll go by. So I go by, knock. Hi, this is Dennis. I'm one of the medics in the emergency room here. You okay? And I heard this little female voice whimpering and she says, can you please come in? And I says, okay. And I just like, this is Dennis. I'm the male, medic. She's like, it's okay. Can you please come in? So there's a little safety latch on the doorknob
Okay.
for that emergency department. So you click it and it opened and I walked in and she was crying and she says, I think I miscarried. And I was
Oh
like,
man.
oh, okay. I says, well, just put your hand on that rail right there and just stand it a little bit if you can, and I'll look and see. And she did, and there was a beautiful baby uh, floating in the just in that toilet water,
Okay.
and obviously dead.
Right.
And I says, okay, yeah, go ahead and sit down. I says, yeah. I says, and I got on the radio. I says, hey, I need some nurses in here, stat. I says, we definitely got a baby, and so they came in, and then they took care of the mom out, and then I reached in there and I pulled the baby out and put this baby in a bucket. And Dave, something about seeing that beautiful little life floating in a receptacle that thousands of people have defecated into,
Right.
and San Antonio water system's finest. And I was walking in the hallway and the charge nurse says, you okay? And I said, no. And I just started crying.
Wow. Okay.
It was the final dropper. It
Right.
just
Yeah, it kept adding up a lot, right? Yeah. Oh, you froze.
was time. And
Wow.
I said no. And I immediately walked out the back of the emergency room and I sat on a limestone wall and all these nurses come bursting through the door and they just formed this giant huddle around me and just grabbed me up in their arms and just held me as I just
Wow.
sobbed 23 years worth of pain and death and dead and just sobbed. And I said, I just kept saying, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And
Man.
they were just rubbing my back and just whole hugging me. And
Talk about
so,
love and support. Holy cow. Like you said, be around the right people. Wow. That's
for
amazing.
sure. Yeah. And
So,
drove me to my, they drove me to my nurses and medics and even resident doctors. I would say always combat your natural human tendency to just make people into jobs. Like even pumping up the stretchers so that you can bring them up to the level you are so you can start an IV on them. Be mindful of the fact that they have a pelvic fracture. And if you're stomping on this pedal to bring them up, they're coming up like this with this pelvic fracture that they're dealing with. And so being mindful of everything and how it impacts people and being mindful to treat people with respect and love and compassion. And that came back around to me then when I'm walking up to my clinic with my doctor's office and it's absolutely packed with people. And the clerk looks at me and says, "Do you have an appointment?" And I says, "No." And she says, she says, "I can't get you in today." And I said, my name is Dennis. I said, "I've been working emergency room for 23 years and I'm dealing with some really darkness right now. And I'm afraid what will happen tonight if I don't get help." I says, "I'm at the end." And she looked at me and she went pale and she says, "We will get you in right now."
Nice.
And she made a call and I'll be forever grateful.
That's amazing. Holy moly.
It's
And you froze up a
caring.
little bit. Was that an ER you went to?
No, it was just a regular doctor's office, my
Wow.
doctor
Holy
office.
cow.
And
That's amazing that you actually went in there. You had the courage to go in there and tell people. So what did they wind up just talking to you? Did they wind up giving you medication? Did they wind up
yeah, so
giving you counseling? Or go ahead.
this is a really good point, Dave. And I'm kind of frustrated that my signal is stalling out because I'm afraid people are going to miss what I'm about to say. And um, when I went to the doctor, they got me in with the psychologist, and they they're not the ones that counseled me, but they're the ones who started me on the medications. And what I'll say about medications is that they absolutely saved me. They saved my
Okay.
life. What they did was they gave me medication which kept me from dreaming. They gave me medication which made me go to sleep, and they gave me medication which brought down some of my anxiety. Right.
Okay.
So, but I never had it in my head that I was going to always be on that. My goal was to get off of this. Right. So
Right.
I'm very thankful that I had that for the first 6, 7 months because I was able to sleep without nightmares. I was able to get rest. I was getting good rest. And I was able to get myself down to a really good place. Then, in concert with some excellent counseling, well, I got a CPT program, cognitive processing therapy. And in concert with that, a 12-week process, by the time I was done with that 12 weeks, I was off the meds. And she
Nice.
had, meanwhile, given me the skills on dealing with, which is in the book, which I've got in the
Okay.
book.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So then it was like this perfect, because now I have never had to take those meds again. And now I've got the skills on processing. But and the thing is too, and Dave, you probably know this better than anybody too, is that it will rear its head. Like the other night, I was watching a movie with Shawnette, and there was this scene they were enacting, taking her in to get counseling for his wife because she had an injury, got on some opiates, and now she was an addict to it. And
Yeah.
he took her in, the love of his life, and he was crying as he walked up to the counter and he was telling her, "Look, I know you don't." And it was me, right? It was me. And
Yeah.
he was telling her, "Look, I know I'm just another person, but please, can you help me?" And that look on her face, it took me right there. And I just started crying. And Shauna says, "Are you okay?" And I says, I need to just take a walk. So I went outside and I walked the neighborhood for about an hour
Okay.
and cleared my head, and then I was fine. So people need to know that it's not a fix all.
Right. And I think what you said earlier too is you knew it wasn't going to be fixed overnight, right? It was all these years of trauma, right? You can't just
Right.
take one pill and be better the next day. That's impossible. It's going to be a long-term process. I love that you had in your mind that you didn't want to take medication for a long time. A lot of people wind up getting stuck on medication. And all
Right.
the people that I've had on here, they've done other therapies as well. Whether it's stem cells, psychedelics, hyperbaric, whatever works for you, right? There's a lot of different variety of things out there that you could actually wind up doing. But I think the greatest part of your story is that you actually started taking some action, right? And that's the first step, realizing it. You talked to the other nurses and you took action to go take yourself somewhere instead of doing something that other people do that we shouldn't wind up doing. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Dave, the important thing is you've got this severe and you've
Yes.
got this, right?
Yep.
So you've got your empathy and your emotion and your feelings, which makes you a good writer. It makes you a loving husband. It makes But then you've got your intellectual side, which is processing reality, right?
Right.
So what I'll say, if I could tell anybody anything, is that a big test is when you're telling yourself that you're worthless and you're a dirtbag and your family would be better off without you. You need to then also engage the other side, which says, okay, let's reality check this. Is this reality what I'm feeling right now, what I'm thinking? Well, I have two daughters that are depending on me. I have a nonprofit. I have written 4 books. I've got 7 books in my brain that are swirling around that need to be written. I have my parents that depend on me now because they're up there in age, and I'm getting calls from them almost every day to go over to the house and help them with things, or dad's fallen, or this and that. And like you just keep listing those things that, like, okay, no, like I'm really important. I need to be around. And if God determines it's time for me to go, then fine, but I'm not going to speed up that process. And so
Right.
that's something constant too that you need to be doing. It's not overnight, and it's a battle. Because there's this great book series by Frank Peretti, a Christian author who wrote a book called This Present Darkness. And the scene opens in the book where there is a mother beside her bed praying for her son, her wayward teenage son, who at that moment, the book takes you, swoops you across town, and you're with him as he's in a room with a bunch of people who are passed out on drugs, and he's the only one awake. And he's looking at his life and thinking about what an idiot he's been, and that maybe his family would be better off without him because they're going to get a call from the cops, no doubt, that night. And meanwhile, then the author swoops a little bit and changes your perspective. And you can see that beside the boy is a demon with his long, scaly finger inside the boy's
Wow.
brain. And he's swirling around his brain like that with his finger. And meanwhile, then the author takes you back across town, and you're with the mom as she's beside her bed with the Bible. And she's saying, God, please be with my son. He's going through a lot right now. I don't know what he's facing right now, but I could just feel in my heart that he's really having some struggles right now that he's dealing with. Would you please send angels and just please protect him, put your guardians around him? And all of a sudden, you swoop back across town, and there's this beam of light that starts to shine through the bottom of the door and through that flaming sword. And you're like, oh, that stuff's about to go down.
Man, that's awesome. What's the
And
name of
so
that
the
book
angel
again, Dennis?
is called This Present Darkness.
That sounds awesome. I have to check that
Yeah,
out as well.
goosebumps.
So,
And the angel comes in and handles business.
speaking of God, did God help you a lot with the PTS as well?
Yes, yes. And a lot of that was those quiet moments of
Okay.
sitting. What I would do, this is a combination of a relationship with God and a relationship with the planet. I know that sounds really crazy, but what I was around so much death that I would really took a lot of comfort from my lunch breaks, taking my shoes off and my socks and going across, well, first going across the street and then taking my shoes and socks off in the park. And I just wanted to feel things that were alive and be
Mm.
grounded.
Wow.
And I would sit in the grass and just rub my feet in the grass, and I would reach behind me in that tree and I would just hold that tree, and I would talk to God and just say, I just really need some help right now.
That's
I don't,
awesome.
and that would be enough to keep me going. And then my family or my a coworker or and you'll see in the book God brings people into my path throughout this experience that remind me of what God called me to do and why it's important that I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that you're talking about sleep is so important. So, and another thing that I have heard from other people, it's like, you know what, go, if you're struggling, don't worry. That night could be terrible. Next morning could be totally 100%
Yes,
different. So,
yes, absolutely.
try to get that sleep. Let that mind stop racing, right? And then the
Mhm.
next day, that's a great thing about our life, right? God gives us the opportunity to reset and start all over the next day. So it's like,
It's
hey,
wild.
which is talk about a miracle, you know? It's like,
Hmm.
because we all have bad days, you know? I've had bad days and it's like, oh man, what the hell? What's going on here
Hmm.
today? And next morning it's like it's all gone, which is amazing. So I love that. All right, perfect. So we'll make sure we get your book. Let's talk a little bit about your Pacific War, your Pacific War historian, which is amazing, right? In World War II. How did you wind up getting into that?
Being a military kid,
Okay.
and especially during the 80s, and you know, there was Reagan was our president, so he made us all feel very proud to be Americans and
Right.
American greatness. And the space shuttles were in their prime, and um, the F-16, and we had the F-14 at the time, and when you're an Air Force brat and all the jets and
Top
uh,
Gun came out then.
for sure, yeah, exactly, right,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, Iron Eagle, and it was
Yeah,
like,
Iron Eagle. I forgot about that. Yeah.
and the F-15, and you're just you're surrounded to that, and then when you live in Iceland, there's only got two channels, so
Okay.
there's going to be there's going to be a war movie on almost all the time. And so I remember seeing Von Ryan's Express, The Longest Day, Objective Burma with Errol Flynn, um, Bataan with Robert Taylor.
Oh, some old
Like
ones. Holy cow.
and that was really interesting too. I'm glad you said that, is that because we were a Christian family, mom and dad wouldn't let us watch movies with cuss words. So that
Nice.
meant we could only watch movies from the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Okay.
And so, and that would play out later on, because then what that meant was the music I was listening to was from 30s, 40s, 50s, and
Oh,
classical
wow.
music and
Okay.
Christian music. And the movies I was watching were all from that time period or Disney. So,
Man.
later, when I have this urge to interview World War II veterans, and by this time now I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. But
Wow.
what's awesome is that because of that upbringing, it was like I was from
You can
that time
relate with them
period.
really well. Yeah, that's
It was
awesome. Holy cow.
it was crazy.
Wow.
I'm just dropping names, and
Right. It's like, how does this
bands,
kid
and
know this? Yeah, yeah.
it just opened doors, so many doors, and it was like I was one of them. But
Hey,
that's what started it. And then seeing the pictures on the walls of my grandfathers, my mom's dad served in the Pacific. He was on the gunboat. Uh,
okay.
I did a book with Mitch Weiss, a Pulitzer Prize winning author, called The Heart of Hell.
Okay.
And then that's the one that I did a lot of the research for. I ended up interviewing, I think, 300 guys for that book, and traveled all
Wow.
over the US, sleeping at rest stops, truck stops, uh, just interviewing guys on farms and in Missouri and Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Arkansas, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, and then going to the archives in DC, pulling up the original documents, getting to hold my grandpa's deck log from his gunboat, seeing coffee stains on it, seeing in there where he came aboard in Pearl Harbor in 44.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so then my grandpa Blocker, my dad's dad, was on an LST in the Atlantic. My dad's grandfather, uh, Frank Sobin, he was in the 30th Infantry Division in World War II,
Okay.
and he was older. He was in his late 30s, and he was killed in action on October 27th, 1944, in the siege of Aachen. So he's buried in Belgium.
Okay.
Um, we befriended the family, Frankie Mears and Robbie Mears. Robbie, as a young teenager, a Belgian young man, adopted about 12 graves at Henri Chapelle Cemetery, American Cemetery. And my great grandpa was one of the ones he adopted. So we're very close to the Muir family. And they, every American holiday, they send pictures with flowers and roses on his grave, and they make sure it's trimmed. And they will they have a bucket of sand there at Henri Chapelle, and the sand is from Normandy beachhead. It's
Oh,
from the
nice.
Normandy beach in
Wow. Okay.
France. So what they'll do is they'll take it, a scoop of it, and they'll smash it into the name along the white cross. And then they'll take a wet rag and they wipe it. And so that sand, get Goosebump City, that sand is embedded into the cross and it makes your name pop. And
Wow.
so they wipe it, and then you can see Frank Sobin, and then they'll take a picture, and they send that to us every American holiday for the last several years. We
Man,
get those from that family. So with that heritage, and then my dad being career military, um, World War II was always.
man, talk about an experience. Holy cow, traveling all over the US, right? Meeting all these guys, hearing all these stories, and kind of brings me back to what you initially, when we first started our conversation, you wanted to serve, right? And in being missionary, so you're still serving, doing God's work per se, right? Getting the word out there, getting those stories out, which is awesome. And I think that's something that we're all called to do, is right, is to serve and help others, like you have mentioned, throughout the podcast as well. So I love that story. And your grandfather had a connection with some of the people you interviewed as well, right?
Sure. Yeah, he was shipmates. They were all shipmates, and some of the guys remembered him. One guy in particular, John Overchuck, was very close friends with my grandfather and was able to tell me things about him. And
Oh, wow.
yes, that was awesome.
Holy cow. That's amazing. Perfect. Any other stories you want to talk about that at all during that time period?
Just that, and as evidence of how these PTS is a battle, a constant battle. When I reached out to Bruce Hallett, who had been with my grandfather on the gunboat at Iwo Jima, see when they
Okay.
took the Marine, when they were at Iwo 2 days before the Marines were there.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
their gunboat group, 12 gunboats, LCIs, they were there with underwater demolition teams 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Oh, wow.
And they were each given a sector of the beach. So my grandfather's beachhead was Yellow Beach 2.
Okay.
And the particular UDT assigned to that was 14, Team 14. So they would go in, provide cover fire, rocket barrages from their gunboat, and then 40 millimeter, 20 millimeter fire over the heads of the swimmers as they're in there checking the reef conditions, checking the depth of the beach. Are there mines? Are there obstacles?
Holy cow.
And they have these plastic slates that are affixed to their bare leg, and they, with a grease pen, and the frogmen would make notes as they're incoming fire. So the Japanese thought it was the invasion, so they opened up with everything they had. My grandpa's gunboat, 70 guys, was hit by 3 mortars, and those mortars dropped right in among where the guys are. And so of his crew of 70, they had 22 killed and 21 wounded. And of the 7 officers, 3 were killed and 3 were wounded. And so the ship had 60% casualties,
Wow.
and it was on fire and listing to port. And that Bruce Hallett, who I mentioned in the beginning here of this segment, he was stationed on the bow of the ship, and his particular position, he was at the 40 millimeter on one of those things, making the gun go left and right, and the
Okay.
guy on the other side of the barrel turned a lever which made the gun go up and down.
Wow.
So they worked
Right.
in tandem. Well, when the mortar hit the bow, it hit the ammunition locker, and that explosion from that ammunition blowing up forced him forward. And so he was on fire, and he was riddled with shrapnel. And he leapt, crawled over the splinter shield, and hugged the prow of the ship, the very point front of the ship. He hugged it as the ammunition was blowing up over him. And fast forward to 2004, and I'm in San Antonio. He's in Bremerton, Washington, and I do research and I find a phone number for him, and I call, and he says hello, and I says, hi sir, my name is Dennis Blocker. I'm calling from San Antonio. My grandfather Clifford Lemke served on the LCI 449 at Iwo Jima. I was wondering, sir, if you served on the 449 at Iwo Jima. And he said, yes, I did. He
Wow.
goes, just a minute. And I could hear, he put the phone, I could hear it click as it was put against the ceramic tile on his kitchen counter. And then I could hear him vomiting into the sink.
No way. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Holy
yeah,
cow.
yeah.
Wow.
And his wife got on the phone, Phyllis, and she said, she says, young man, she's like, Bruce isn't going to be able to talk to you anymore. She's like, can you call tomorrow? He wants to talk to you tomorrow. And I
Wow.
was like mortified. I was like, no, I said, I'm so sorry. I just trying to find guys with my grandpa. I'll not call. She's like, no, 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 no. He wants you to talk. He wants to talk. Call tomorrow. I was like, okay. So I did. And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. And I got to go up there and I got to meet him several times and spend time with him. And um, I got to walk the deck of the an restored LCI up there in Portland, 713.
Oh wow.
And another sailor that was there, I got to walk it with him, and he walked with me, showed me where we got hit, and where he went, and
And your grandfather made it out too, right?
he did unscathed as far as physical wounds.
So
But
did they go to another LCI basically?
no, they that was another thing too, is they stayed there and they still had the invasion, so that
Okay.
was 2 days away. So
Oh no way. Oh wow.
so they had to just take hoses, and they took all their casualties to a ship called the Terror, of all names, USS
Oh my
Terror,
gosh. Holy cow.
minesweeper, and they took their dead and their wounded there, and then they had to hose off. They had to pick up all the pieces, their heads and legs and limbs, and put them in pillowcases and put them in 40 millimeter clips in there, and then drop them over the side. And then they hosed off the ship as best they could. But the engineering officer told me that even 6 months later, they would be at sea, and he would see puddles of water down below that would be tinged pink,
Wow.
pink still months later from the blood seeping through the edges of the ship.
Holy cow.
Um,
How was the conversation when you called the next day? A little bit
Good.
better?
Yeah,
Okay.
he was good. Yeah, yeah, he was
Man,
good.
talk about unreal what your mind hangs on to, right? That it could have that much effect for you from just asking you a simple question. Wow.
Just that much. Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Let's jump into one of the last segments here, the Rooftop Oath. Tell us the story behind that, brother. You told me a little bit when we were on the phone a couple weeks ago and want to make sure everyone knows what's going on with that.
Yeah, the Rooftop Oath came about because I had a podcast that I'm a co-host on called What's the Scuttlebutt, and we had a guest on that was a young guy from Michigan who was enamored with the flag raisers from Iwo Jima, and he did a bunch of research, found out that one of them was from Weslaco, Texas, which is down in the Rio Grande Valley, down way down south along the border, and his name was Harlon Block, and he just really kind of attached his affection towards him and his story, and that he had been a flag raiser and had died on March 1st, 45 at Iwo Jima. And matter of fact, Andrew was for
I got the
Halloween. He
flag right
was,
behind me. Yeah, yeah,
oh, yeah, that's right.
yeah. I can picture right
There it
behind.
is.
Yeah, yeah. Got it.
Um, yeah, Andrew was Harley Block for Halloween one year.
Oh my
And
gosh! Wow.
so he was showing this presentation, and one of the pictures he showed was of 13 young men with their right hands raised,
Okay.
taking the oath of enlistment into the Marines. And at the bottom, it said inducted 18 February 1943, San Antonio. So, it was like, oh my gosh, that's here.
Wow.
So I I says, well, San Antonio doesn't destroy architecture. They'll gut a building, but they keep the amazing facade. So I I says that building's still here because I could see the pediment behind them and the flagpole, and I knew it was a roof that they were
Okay.
standing. So I go downtown and I find it. It's at 118 Broadway,
Oh
San Antonio,
wow. Holy
and
cow.
it's there. It's the pediment is there, and the flagpole is there, and the flag is flying. I'm
Oh
like,
my
my
gosh, that's
goodness.
amazing. Okay.
So I got a hold of the building owner, and I told him the story, and he had no idea that these guys had been on his roof. He didn't know why they were there. He didn't had no idea that his rooftop was connected to this image. And then to find out that the fourth young man in that picture, when you're looking at it, the fourth young man in, and I'll share it with you, uh, is Harlon Block.
Okay.
And 2 years later, almost to the day, he'll raise that flag in that picture behind you.
Oh,
He'll
wow.
raise the flag over Iwo Jima. And he's the guy in that picture who is first from the right, if you're looking at it. He's the one making sure that it's getting in the foundation, it's getting the right place. And so the owner of the building was just floored. And he's like, what do we do with this information? I was like, well, we make sure that this is never lost to history. Like,
Right, exactly. Yep.
I says, for my part, I'll find out why they were on the roof, but let's at least put a plaque up there so that 100 years from now, people will know this took place here.
Man, what a
So I did
connection. That's
research, right?
awesome. Good. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So the big question then was why that rooftop? And we got Harlon Block service record, and his induction papers say the heading says United States Marine Corps, Southern Recruiting District, San Antonio headquarters, 118 Broadway. And then it lists the room, which was basically the entire sixth floor of this building. So then we knew
Okay.
that it was basically a MEP center,
Okay.
and that they had processed through the sixth floor. And so they would do their medical, dental, chest x-rays, life insurance, benefits, and then they would go to the roof, stand beside the flag, take their oath. And that meant that all these young men from South Texas, from Seguin, Sabinal, Mission, San Antonio, Bulverde, Weslaco, Rio Grande, Laredo, New Braunfels, like all these amazing cities around here, all their young men all went to 118 Broadway, the sixth floor, took their oath of enlistment, then went to San Diego, and then went to Tarawa, to Saipan, to Guam, Tinian, Peleliu, Bougainville, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and made history.
Wow. Holy cow. Man,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool that they were brought to the rooftop for swearing in, you know.
pretty cool.
I actually did see the picture on your LinkedIn, which is awesome. Uh, so the event's going to be when again?
21 February.
And what's
Yeah.
going to happen at the event?
So at the event, we're going to dedicate some plaques on the roof, down in the
Okay.
basement of the building.
And the public's open to coming out?
The public is open to come out. If you want a seat, you are advised to email me at cogg.dennis with two N's at gmail.com and say you'll be there. I'm saying that people can come and bring a guest, but I need names because I'm going to put names on every chair.
Okay.
Other than that, it's first come, first serve. And we can get, basically, we did the math and we think we can get 280 people up
Oh,
there.
wow. So quite a bit.
Um,
Okay.
but it's, a lot of it has to do with integrity of the roof because it is a
Right.
roof.
That's what I was wondering as well.
So
Yeah.
we need to be respectful of that surface. And so we're right now, which is also why if you've got listeners that are willing to donate and you want to donate to something that's really going to matter and not go into people's pockets, but actually go towards the event and something that's going to last forever, I would please give toward this event because we are still trying to fund being able to protect the roof. And there's a Marine Corps mural that's being painted
Oh,
almost
nice.
every other night. The artist who, the owner of the building, gave him free office space to make the
Nice.
mural.
That's awesome.
He's in
Okay.
there painting late at night, and I get these amazing prints or pictures, and they're of the South Texas flourished Fiesta colors, which is what I wanted because I wanted this cool clash of South Texas spirit and the Spanish infusion of the Spanish Fiesta colors combined with this gritty Marine Corps World War II history. And so
Nice.
it's this really cool marriage of that culture with this history.
That's
And
so cool.
it's going to be pretty epic. And then Sergeant Seth Blocker, my nephew, Marine Corps, he and Master Sergeant John Moeller, retired Air Force Master Sergeant, are making a Texas cedar cross for the Marines.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's
Okay.
7 feet tall. At the center where the cross is made, their center is going to be the brass metal outline of the flag raising.
Okay.
And then on the one cross beam, it says Semper, and on the other, Fidelis.
That's all
And
beautiful.
so any
Wow.
Marines attending are encouraged to bring a pin of their rank, which they'll
Oh,
step up
wow.
to that memorial cross and they'll push their rank into that cross
Wow.
for all
That's
time.
awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. How long's the event going to be?
So it's from 1300 hours and the official time it closes is 17:30,
Okay.
5:30. But the actual ceremony starts at 2:30.
Okay. Perfect.
But if people want to hang out, they're going to want to take pictures and they're going to want to talk and see some of the exhibits that'll be downstairs, World War II vehicles, and there'll be some Marine Corps vendor there selling Marine Corps stuff,
Okay.
uh, cool things, and also the folks from Weslaco, his museum down there, are coming up. I got them a table to display Harlon Block's Letterman jacket, his
Oh, wow.
ring. They're bringing his original Purple Heart citation, things like that from Harlon Block will be there. Taft High School, local high school, is going to be there performing jazz music,
Okay.
1940s big band music during the reception.
Oh, wow.
Weslaco High School's junior ROTC program will be doing a lot of the event. They'll be doing the presentation of the colors, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the national anthem. What's cool about that is that in that picture of the Rooftop Oath picture, you have the 13 young men that are basically all from Weslaco, and you
Okay.
have before them Captain Donald Taft, who is the camp commander of the facility and Marine Corps captain, and Taft and Weslaco. And in this event, we have Weslaco Junior ROTC and Taft High School Band.
Oh my gosh.
And it just
Holy
worked out that
cow.
way. It
That
wasn't
is so
meant to
amazing. And that
be.
sounds like an awesome event. I'm glad that you guys found that out. And is the guy that was on your podcast, is he going to be there as well? The guy that,
Yes, yeah, he's going
okay.
to be one of the speakers. He'll be the first speaker, young man
Okay.
from
Is he there
Michigan.
in Texas also?
Nope, he's in Michigan, and he's got. I told him you got 10 minutes, so you say you got 10 minutes on. It's gonna be a hard stop, believe me. So you better be paying attention because the reason for that is that we're linking up with the Commemorative Air Force, and they're supposed to do a flyover at a very
Oh,
particular
wow. Okay.
moment, and that'll be World War II aircraft. So
That's awesome, brother.
major generals, it's such an event, Dave, that I've even 3 days ago I got a email from a sergeant major Army from the local Fort Sam Houston Army base asking what the uniform of the day is,
Oh, wow.
and because the commanding general, Major General Ryan, commanding general of Army South, plans to attend. And I already got word from Army Major General McQueen that he and Command Sergeant Major Gonzalez will be attending. And then retired Major General Juan Ayala, Marine Corps retired. He is director of San Antonio's Military and Veteran Affairs Board. He will be there reading the proclamation from the mayor of San Antonio, the seventh largest city in the United States,
Wow.
declaring the day Weslaco 8 Day. And then on the 14th of February, myself, John Moeller, and Jeff Copsetta are going to the county courthouse and the commissioner's court, where they are proclaiming from the county Weslaco 8 Day to honor the young Marines. And it's something that's going to be a lot long lasting, and it's going to be an awesome Easter egg for San Antonio. And Marines will know from now forever that when they come, and there'll be a way that they can get on their website and they'll be able to book some time. And even if they can't, even if they're coming in on a Saturday, they'll be welcome to text me and say, "Hey, is it possible for me to get up to the roof?"
Oh, wow.
And we'll
Okay.
do whiskey and cigar nights and
That's
things
going to
like
be
that
awesome.
with
Man,
Marines.
that's incredible. What is going to be the uniform of the day?
Well, for civilians, it's going to be night. I'm encouraging them 1940s. So the ladies are wearing dresses and they're doing their hair with victory curls and
Oh my
hats and
gosh.
veils, and the guys are
Is there
all
a
with three
website for
piece.
this, Dennis, or no?
USCOGG.org,
Okay.
and it's called the Rooftop Oath event, and I'll be updating that actually this weekend with
Okay.
very specifics about the event.
And you guys will
And
have it online as well, probably, right?
yes, sir. Yeah, we're trying. That's another thing about funding is that we would like to broadcast it live on YouTube or Facebook.
Stream it. Okay.
Yes, sir. So that's really dependent on if folks will give or not. And it
Awesome.
doesn't have to be a lot. Look, it's like $20 here and there adds up so fast. And it's like, do I want and just humanly speaking, do I want a philanthropist who could care less but would like a tax break to write a check for $2,500 for the mural? Or would I rather 100 Marines each gave 20 bucks, and then that energy and love is thereby infused into that project by 100 Marines who made it happen instead of a philanthropist who wanted a tax break?
Right,
Does the
exactly.
mural get to be put up there either way? Yes. But it's more meaningful if Marines know they did it.
Right,
And
100%.
yeah, so
I love it. All right, awesome. Getting ready to wrap up.
yes, sir.
What's one thing you want our listeners to remember about you or what you're doing?
Live a life that honors God. Live a life that at your final moment you can look back on and say, well done. And that doesn't mean it's a life that where you haven't made mistakes. That doesn't mean a life where you haven't ended up in jail at some point or another. It doesn't mean a life where you haven't been pulled over because you got a DUI, but it means a life where you had those experiences, you learned from them, and you bettered yourself from them. We all are human. We all make mistakes, and we need to be in a place where we can have conversation. And when you get to a place where you can't talk to people and you're losing friends because of positions they're taking on Facebook, then that's a problem. And we need to be able to sit down, have disagreements about things, but talk and learn from our mistakes and realize you don't know everything and be willing to. The person I was in Bible college when I was a far right wing independent fundamental Baptist in Bible college, and I thought I knew everything about the world and how things should be run, to the Christian who came out of working in the trauma center with folks who were lesbian and gay and seeing that that reality of their way they lived their life wasn't what I was told and that they were not what I was told in Bible college and that Jesus was compassionate to everybody.
Right.
He took hard lines on things. Now there's things that I don't agree with about lifestyles and this and that, but
He
I
still
have
loved everybody and helped everybody.
I
Yeah.
absolutely. I love people and I'll be there for them. I'll give my life for them. I have been in situations where that was a very likely possibility where I would give my life. And I didn't once ask their sexual orientation. I didn't ask their race. I didn't ask for their voting card. It didn't matter to me. They were a human in need. And I was going to possibly give my life to make sure that they survived.
Love
And
it.
we all need to remember that.
I love it. Well, just like we were talking about earlier, when we go to sleep, the next day is a new day. It seems, you and I are getting up there in age, and we talked a little bit about our age before we started. But I mean, it seems like every decade that you get older, you're learning a lot more, right?
That's
It's
right.
like it's like, man, I didn't know anything at that age. I didn't know anything at this age, right? So
That's
always
right.
keep that in mind. It's like you're always going to be growing, learning,
Always
uh,
growing.
getting closer to God. And I think the best thing that you said is live as Jesus did, I think, right? I think that's the most powerful thing out there that I love that you said. Well, Dennis, it's been a great pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. It's an honor to have you. Love what you're doing, brother. Thank you for getting the history out there. Thank you for serving as an EMT, helping people, out there. Thank you for the event with the Marine Corps that's coming up as well. We'll keep in touch. Make sure that I'll make sure that we share this out there as much as possible. But it's a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better.
Same here, Dave. Thank you so much for, getting me in on your schedule and taking the time to talk with me on. Really
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
absolutely. Thanks for being on. Make sure you check out Dennis's book, Clear, right? The
Yes.
event again, Rooftop Oath, February 21st, 2026. Check out his website. I'll put that link on there. Share this episode with someone who needs clarity in chaos, right? For our audience tuning in, share, follow, and subscribe. These stories need to be heard. These lessons can change lives. Stay focused, stay winning. God bless you, and thank you for listening.